Hi everybody, it's Gemma. Welcome back to Pampered Wolf and welcome to another sneaky yet expected Thursday video. Last week's Thursday video was a get ready with me with all of my ultimate favourites. Today we're going to be doing a get ready with me video with all of my affordable favourites. So if you think you're going to like that, please make sure you have liked, you have subscribed and you've hit that notification bell so you're not missing any future uploads. I usually upload on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 PM London time, and I'm also on Instagram if you want to follow me on there. It's at Pampered Wolf, all lowercase, no spaces. Let's get straight into foundation. So the foundation that I'm going to be using today is the NYX Born to Glow foundation. You all know I absolutely love this. I actually haven't used this for a while and I've no idea why, because this is just an absolutely amazing foundation. In fact, I think it's a dupe for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous foundation. It's just absolutely fantastic. The only thing I don't like is this squeezy tube, because you do get a lot of product. It just drips out very, very quickly, so I do tend to waste a little bit. This one is in the shade Light. I really, really love this foundation. It has the right amount of luminosity without looking sweaty. It's just beautiful. The coverage is really, really nice. A lot of people have contacted me and said that this is a little bit more matte on then. I would assume that is the primer that you're using or the SPF that you're using that's making that go like that, because I mean, as you can see, this is just absolutely glorious on my skin. It will dry down and give the most natural luminous sheen. It's not, like I said, overly dewy. So if you're wanting that, this won't be for you. So this foundation is cruelty-free. It's also free of any fragrance and it's free of any essential oils as well. But it does contain some alcohol, so that is something that you do have to be aware of if you are sensitive to foundations with alcohol in. Okay, so I'm going to let my foundation dry down. It is going to take a little bit longer to sink into my skin because I do have quite an occlusive moisturiser on today, as around this area my skin is really, really dry. So around that area I'm going to have to give it a little bit longer. I'm going to go ahead and do my brows. You've seen me do this all the time, so I'm going to go and do it off camera. But this is the NYX Microbrow pencil in Ash Brown. It's such an amazing pencil. I haven't found anything, even high-end products, that actually rivals this. This is the closest one that I can see to the Anastasia Beverly Hills Microbrow alternative. It's so fine, the tip on this. It's just absolutely amazing and the colour is perfect for my brows. So I'm going to go ahead and do those and I'll be right back. Okay, so the eyebrows are done. Let's move on to concealer. And the concealer that I'm going to use today is just unbelievable. It's absolutely fantastic. This is the Revolution Conceal and Define Infinite. The Infinite one is the one to go for. I find it slightly less drying than the original Conceal and Define, and it's just got the best coverage and it's smooth and it's creamy and it's just lush. It really, really is. This is in the shade C3, which is possibly going to be a little bit too pale for me today, but I'm going to pop a little bit on the back of my hand. This is more my winter shade. I'm going to get a concealer brush and I'm just going to do my concealer exactly the same as I did it last week. So pop a dot there, pop a dot there to get rid of any of that discoloration that just gets worse as I get older, that sort of redness at the side there. And then I'm just going to start blending that up and down over my dark circle just to disguise that. I'm not going to go straight up to the lash line. This is a mistake that so many people make. If you go too close to the lash line with your concealer and your concealer is 1, maybe 2 shades paler than your natural skin tone, which is what a lot of people like underneath the eye area to brighten, this can make your eyes look a little bit bloodshot and look a bit sore, so just be careful where you're putting it. Now you do have to work quite quickly with this, and I haven't done that because I've been nattering, so I'm just going to take a damp blending sponge and just start blending that through. This is a self-setter, so you don't need to set this in place if you apply the correct amount. Now that is weird. Some of my foundation has lifted. That is very strange. That hasn't happened before. So let's just apply a little bit more just to there, which I usually wouldn't be doing at this point because, you know, I like to let everything settle in. There we go. That's better. Not quite sure why that happened. It was like it hit a patch of oil and it just hadn't soaked in at all. Anyway, let's do the other side. So as per usual, I am not going to apply any more product on top of that until this has completely dried down. It doesn't take long to dry down. This is a self-setter, so this can be quite drying on the under eye. Make sure your eyes are properly prepped before you apply this concealer. So I actually think that's enough coverage for me today. If I was wearing something really full coverage on my face, then I would probably go in for a second layer once this one had dried down, but I think this one is perfectly fine today. The coverage is immense. It's really, really good. Okay, so once everything has set, I'm going to go in with a little bit of powder in those oilier areas, which tends to be my T-zone, and a little bit on my chin where I tend not to be able to keep foundation on my chin for very, very long because I touch this area. Not because this is oilier, it's just because, you know, I touch it and I really, really shouldn't. The powder that I'm going to go in with today is the number 7 Perfect Light Loose Powder. This is so, so good. Really, really finely milled, just a beautiful, beautiful powder. If you can get it, highly recommend it. So I'm just going to dab that on my forehead. You can see that's just taken the shine off it immediately. So I'm just going to pop a tiny bit of powder on my under eyes because it is absolutely sweltering outside, and although this is a self-setter, I just want to make sure that this stays all day. Okay, so I did say I was going to do a little bit of an eye look with my bronzer, and the bronzer that I'm going to use today is the Maybelline City Bronzer. This is such a good bronzer, and the reason why I like this one so much is that it doesn't have any orangey ready tones in there. It's far more neutral than any of my other drugstore affordable bronzers. So this one is definitely a keeper. I'm just going to take a very small brush, grab a little bit of that bronzer and just run that across my lash line. And I'm going to do that top and bottom, just to add a bit of dimension. It's beautiful. Just deepens everything off and also makes your lashes look a bit thicker. So I'm going to do that on the bottom as well. So I'm just going to drag that up a little bit, but only a little, just to give that lifted effect. And then I'm just going to connect that with the top lash line. And then take a little bit on a fluffy brush and just connect into the socket. It's just a really, really pretty, very natural look where you wouldn't know if you'd got any shadow on or any bronzer on at all. You just think that that is the way that their eyes are. Really, really pretty. Let's move on to a bit of liner, and the liners that I've been loving at the moment are the RIMMEL Scandaleyes. I'm going to be using one that's a bit of a navy blue just to add that hint of colour. It's not overly dramatic, it still looks quite dark, but when you get close up you will see those hints of blue in there. I have these in lots of different colours. I've got like a charcoal grey, I've got a bronze colour, I've also got a shimmering brown and a cream colour as well. So I really, really love these. They are extremely soft, but then they set. I'm going to use this in my waterline today. I'm not going to do the top and bottom lash lines. I'm just going to do this really close to the eye. So my tips for tight lining are: have a mirror beneath you and look down into that mirror and slightly pull, and I mean just literally slightly, and you may find that if you're looking down enough you won't have to pull the lid up. And then take your pencil and just very, very gently add that to where you want it. Really, really simple, very, very easy. Now again, once you're doing the lower line, you can actually hold a mirror up and look up rather, so that your pupil's further up in your eye and therefore nowhere near where you're going to be applying the liner. I'm actually okay doing the lower waterline. I don't really have that sensitive eyes to begin with, to be fair, because I do have contact lenses, so I'm constantly touching my eyes anyway, obviously with clean hands, everybody. Nobody go nuts. Okay, so let's move on to mascara now. Ordinarily, my favourite affordable mascara would be the NYX On The Rise mascara, but this one has now dried out, so I'm not going to be able to use this, and I've just placed a massive order with NYX and forgot to add one of these on. Duh. So the mascara that I'm going to be using is the Maybelline Lash Lift Mascara. It's really nice. It's not on par, to be fair, with the NYX On The Rise, but it's a perfectly decent mascara, so that's the one that I'm going to be using. Okay, so I've actually only got one coat of mascara on the top and one coat on the bottom, and a very, very light coating on the bottom at that. I didn't want to put two coats of this on the top lashes because my lashes are lifted, and they would look absolutely ridiculous because they have been slightly over lifted, and if I put any more on it would just create more attention to my lashes, and I just think they look okay with one coat. So let's move on to the bronzer again. So I'm going to go back to the Maybelline City Bronzer and just bronze the rest of my face just to make me look a bit more alive. So again, starting on the forehead, on the high points of my forehead where the sun would naturally hit, and then blending that down. The shade of the bronzer that I'm using is the medium cool, which is number 200, and this is my favourite one within this range. It's just so lovely, and it's easily buildable, so you can have that subtle bronzy glow as well as having it deeper if that's what you want. So I'm just going to add a little bit to my body as well, as I have no fake tan on my body whatsoever left, which I've got to say I prefer. I'm embracing my paleness now. So I'm just going to add a little bit to my... Is anybody else so non-ambidextrous? I have literally no coordination in my left hand whatsoever. It's like a 1-year-old with a paintbrush. There we go. It'll do. It'll do. It will do. So let's move on to blush, and I think probably you will all know which blush I'm going to pick in my affordable favourite, because I did a review on this not so long ago, probably last month actually, and This was my favourite and I was kicking myself for not trying this earlier. This is the MILANI Luminoso blush in number 5. It's gorgeous. It does have a sheen on there, so if you don't like blushes with a little bit of a shimmery sheen, this one might not be for you. It's not overly shimmery. It's not. It's quite illuminating, whatever, you know what I mean. But it is quite sheeny. So I'm just going to pop a little bit on the high points of the apples of my cheeks and just blend that up a little bit. It's so lovely and it just brings the face to life. I really love blush. Blush is one of my favourites. I think mascara and blush, and I'm not using a lot of mascara at the moment because I tinted my lashes, but mascara and blush just really set the face up. And of course, I like a lot of makeup. Under eye concealer is also a bit of a must. I do like a lot. So I'm just going to add a little bit to my temples for that more flushed look. And I'm also just going to bring that just underneath my brow bone, just to make it look like I've been in the sun for a little bit too long. And a tiny bit down my nose. And a bit on my forehead. Just to add a bit of sun-kissed glow. Really, really pretty. Looks like I've been laying out in the sun all day and I've been nowhere near the sun. I am the biggest vampire on the planet, so if I'm outside, I'm underneath an umbrella. So this is something that my skin will never look like unless I use makeup. Moving on to lips, I am going to be using the Revolution Velvet Kiss Lip Crayon in the shade Chauffer, which is my favourite and I think will go really nicely with this look. I also have these in the shade White Wedding and Heart Race, which is slightly more pinky, so probably wouldn't go as well with the dress that I'm wearing today. So I'm going to pop this on. These are really lovely. They're actually quite creamy in texture. They're not as waxy as the Maybelline lip crayons, which I absolutely love. And they're not as drying either, but they're also not as long lasting. Really, really beautiful though. Really, really nice. I really, really like these, especially this one. I think this one is just an absolutely divine colour. Just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, and it does last on the lip but nowhere near as long as the Maybelline lip crayon, so just bear that in mind. I'm going to put a little bit of gloss over the top of this just to add a bit more of a sheen, and the gloss that I'm going to be using is by Revlon. This is the Superlustrous The Gloss and it is in the shade 215, which is super natural, and this is really quite natural. It's not overly pigmented, it's just a really nice sheen. And I'm just going to add that to the centre. I'm not going to go too far out on the lip, just to give the lip a little bit more bounce. Really, really like that. So that's it for this video. Let me know what you think of the finished look in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit on that notification bell so you don't miss any of these future videos, and hope to see you all in the next one. Bye everyone.